a lot of the discussion was kind of around some of these headlines that came out from State Farm and came from Allstate that were talking about how they're not going to be selling new home insurance policies in California. And for me, that almost like put me back in my chair and started thinking about the ramifications. And I realized my head was just going to explode when you start thinking about the intended and potential unintended consequences of that. And you think of the role that insurance and risk plays just in every part of our lives. So I was just curious, how did you begin to start thinking about that? And what do you think it means for you and your business?
It's a great question. And, one thing is for sure here in the state of California is that there's always some great pronouncement like this, much to our chagrin as business people. But interestingly, this one's a little bit near and dear to me because first job out of college, and this goes back to the early 90s, I worked as a commercial marine underwriter for Hartford Fire Insurance. And for the marine insurance, that included builder's risk. So any dwelling under construction and also transportation risk. So one thing, though, that I learned, now a lot's changed since the early 90s in the insurance world, but what's interesting is much like our industry, a lot of things repeat themselves. So there's a cadence. And what I can say and reassure the audience is that, insurers, carriers like Allstate, et cetera, they do pull out of states for different reasons. And this isn't the first time that something like this has happened. It might be, workers' comp, it might be general liability, it's some type of insurance coverage. Now, this one, of course, is a little bit shocking because you're talking about something that's near and dear and personal to everybody's heart, which is related to our homeowners, right? And that hits. As I understand it, and I'm not a complete expert in this field, I haven't investigated it to the degree and depth that others have, but they're just not writing new policies. They're honoring existing, which is good. And the crux of the matter, as I hear it, is just the cost of construction. And I'm a little bit curious from my own perspective, and this is something that I would look into, is just what are they basing that cost of construction on? Is it over the past couple of years when things were so inflated? And my guess is that there's going to be a discussion. This isn't going to be a long-term decision. There's probably going to have to be some discussions between the commissioner, the insurance commissioner, and these carriers. And I would expect to see a resolution. I cannot predict and won't predict as to when or what it will look like. Quite frankly, I'd have to look into it a little bit more. Short-term wise, yeah, that's a bit of a shock.